Hello. I don't see myself as disabled or handicapped or or crippled. I've been called spastic because I suffer with spasms which lead to going paraplegic when I get paraplegia from my spasms. And it does sometimes affect my voice. I get slurred speech and that. Um, but I don't see myself as disabled. I see myself as physically challenged, and even I have learned to overcome some of these challenges. Um, but my disability is down to neurotoxins I was exposed to back in the 80s. But the thing is, I've learned to see myself not as a disabled person. I see myself as the person I was before the disability, but I also have had friends who were born disabled, and a really good friend of mine, he was a thalidomide victim, which really isn't a good word because, he never saw himself as a victim. But he could take a car engine apart and put it back together again. And he actually asked me once if I hadn't been going out with my then, uh, well, he was my fiance, my first husband when I was engaged to him. He asked me if I would have ever gone out with him. And this is before I became disabled, and I said, yeah, sure. And matter of fact, I can still remember his name. I shan't give his last name, but his name was Charlie. And, he was just a great guy, and, it didn't matter to me that, his hands weren't fully developed. He had the best personality and everything. And ironically, like I said, it turns out I became disabled because I was exposed to neurotoxins. But the point is, people have, we're not disabled in a sense, we're more physically challenged. I guess disabled and handicapped and crippled and spastic, I guess that's just terms that other people use to describe us. But I guess it's a lot shorter, than saying physically challenged. But then those of us who are disabled, regardless if we're born with our disabilities or we acquire disabilities by whatever means, the fact is we learn to overcome our limitations and find new ways to do things and approach things. Okay, fair enough, there are some whose disabilities are much more severe than mine, although I do know what it is to be paralyzed from the neck down, because I've had severe spasms that have caused me paralysis from neck down. I've had to have an injection, and I still, even though I can move my limbs, I still don't have that much feeling in my limbs and that. But there's a woman who is quadriplegic, and you can see her, she's walking, and even though she's like me, she doesn't have much feeling in her arms and legs, she's like me, she keeps mobile as best she can. Except with me, I've got to be careful because my breathing's now affected by, my condition's now affecting my breathing. But that doesn't stop me. And the thing is, I just gotta keep telling myself that it's not, I don't see my condition as an obstacle. As a matter of fact, what gets me more than anything, some people, when my husband was pushing me in the wheelchair before I got my scooter, people would especially in stores, like Marks and Spencer's and places like that, they'd look at me as if I didn't have a right to exist. I mean, I've actually had some people look at me in my wheelchair, forgetting that I've got a brain in my head and I've got eyes so I can observe what they're doing, and they look at me as if, I have no right to be alive. Or I've even been called a sponger, scrounger. Before I became ill, I was working. I worked 12 hours a day. It's just amazing. And I've got a friend who had hydrocephalus when she was a baby, and she's got spina bifida, and she's a really good friend of mine. She recently, a few years back, she had her leg amputated, and her and I used to work together, and she's getting people looking down their noses at her, and she's had people call her a sponger and a scrounger, and not aware that, like me, her and I both worked long hours before our disabilities took hold of us. And to me, that's where political correctness should be more, it's not so much the wording as in the attitude that people look at us at. I mean, I'm tired of, okay, there's a lot of good people out there who do see us as people and see that we, and they think, God, but for the grace of God, go why. But you get some that just look at you as if, you're a burden to society and you got no right to exist. And, sometimes they make you feel as if you should be in the gas chambers, with like the other Holocaust victims. Make you feel like your life is worthless. But I've learned to just go past them and ignore them, and I've even proven myself, and that when you look at my video clips and that, no one knows about my disability, because I don't talk about it. But now, from some of the video clips I've seen here about responding about disabled, I feel I need to speak out, and I'm not gonna sit by and allow, like Brett Keane, he says disabled people aren't loved by God. Well, he is dead wrong. I mean, I know I'm loved by God, and I know others like me are loved by God, and it just really annoys me when people seem to feel, I mean, I've had people come to me and think, oh, well, we just lay our hands on you, we'll heal you and that. First of all, my illness wasn't God made. I wasn't made ill because of a sin or anything. My illness is a result of pollutants, neurotoxins that I was exposed to and that were man-made. My illness, my disability is man-made. Mankind is responsible for my disability, not God. And the thing that gets me is even my friend Charlie, his disability was in relation to something that was man-made. Matter of fact, the majority of us who are disabled, we can put our conditions down to the pollutants of mankind and the stuff that has been, it's just I'm sorry I'm getting head up here, but I get really annoyed and angry when people look their noses down at us and treat us as if we got no right to exist. I mean, I've had people tell my husband that he's made a mistake being with me, that he was, my husband's fit and that, and they told my husband he was making a mistake marrying me, he was making a mistake marrying a disabled person. I've had all of that, and I'm just making my voice known now and speaking out for others like me. And whether you're born with a disability or regardless what your illness is, that we are people too. And it's not how you describe us, it's how you treat us and your attitude towards us. Remember, we're people just like you. And believe it or not, people who are so paralyzed and they can't, I've even understood my friends who can't speak very well because of their disability, but I tell you what, they got it upstairs, they are very intelligent. And same with Down syndrome people. Don't look down at them. I tell you what, their IQs would amaze you. And because I used to, when I was ill, not ill, when I was at school, I used to work with, I'm not really quite sure the right accurate description. Well, I worked with children with Down syndrome, and there was one, I couldn't get the film projector. I couldn't work it, how to put it through, fit it through. And this, I can't even remember his name. I always used to love seeing him. He was always such a thrill. He got it all fixed up. He was able to wind the film through the reel, and it just, and he had such a fascination and love for airplanes, and he rose above, and he didn't see himself as disabled. And just because you put a label on somebody, there's a lot more to us than a label. We're just challenged, that's all. We're just more challenged than some people in a lot of other different ways. And we've also learned, because of our challenges, we've learned to take life one day at a time, one moment at a time. And